What's going on, guys? ShadowNinja, and today we have a different type of video. This is a massive TWAB, maybe the biggest TWAB ever made by Bungie, and it is 9,000 words. We will be skimming through a few things, talking over a few things, and as you see here, we have the TWAB brought up here on screen, and we're going to be going over it, talking about it, and giving my live reactions. I've never really done a video like this, but it's so goddamn long, I'd rather just read and react as I go. So, with that being said, let's talk about this weapons focus TWAB. That's a big sandbox. In a few short sentences, we'll be passing the mic over to staff designer Chris Proctor. Chris joins us today as a representative of the team, speaking to a few hundred bullets of sandbox patch notes that we were developed by a group of ragtag guardians here at the studio. Each of them contributed many hours to their time to get these changes prepared and ready for season 17 beginning on May 24th, and we're expecting Crucible strategies to shift a bit in just a few short weeks. For those who aren't in tune with the intricacies of Destiny Sandbox, there will be a lot to take in. You might need to wait a bit for a fellow community member to break down some of these changes to be less daunting. From a high level, we are covering the following today: a handful of goals for the team, Glaives commentary on their design, some plans for the future tuning, Flinch and Airborne gameplay, and how we're pushing these into build crafting, tuning one-hit kills in Crucible, general tuning for special ammo, exotic weaponry, legendary archetypes, and a slew of weapon perks. Let's get to it. So this is Chris Proctor's words here. G-Day Guardian, good day, Guardians. I just don't know why I spell it like that. In season 17, the Sandbox team is making changes across all aspects of the Sandbox to improve the player experience of PvP. Here are the weapon team's goals that support that. Now, first off, right off the bat, this is pretty crazy that they are focusing on PvP Sandbox changes. A lot of the PvP community, including myself, has felt a little bit burned by this. Some more than others. I think PvP shouldn't be the focal point of the game itself, but at the same time, the more they do to benefit PvP, the better the game will be as a whole to experience. So, introduce levers to tune how players build for Airborne gameplay. Destiny has extremely fluid and expressive Airborne movement, but that movement must be balanced against grounded players lest it becomes oppressive. We want players who enjoy that playstyle to be able to build into it, but they have to make tough choices about what they leave behind to do so. Successfully engaging in the air will no longer be as simple as putting Icarus Grip mod on, but the upside for heavy investing in it will be higher. So this is something I really agree with. As a Titan, airborne combat is not in my forte, just naturally built with my class. Hunters and specifically Warlocks do have better, I guess you could say, building capabilities to this. So seeing adjusting allows Titans, my class, my main class at least, to feel a little bit more grounded. I think this will definitely balance out some of the options you get. Mobility in PvP, I think, is very highly favored towards Hunters, and that's why I think they're very unbalanced in this sandbox. So seeing stuff like this, at least when it comes to gunplay, definitely is a positive note for me. So let's talk about allowing players to mitigate for flinch. Excessive flinch is a frequent complaint from players, most importantly when using primary weapons and taking large chunks of damage from enemies. Players should be able to invest in flinch resistance, and baseline flinch should be lower on primary weapons, but hand-tuned per archetype so that weapons needs flinch resistance have the easiest access to it. This is very good. I mean, I still think having no flinch is not good, but we'll see how this plays out. I'm not really for this. I think flinch is fine, but again, this is just my opinion, and we'll see how the community feels when these are introduced. Reduce the number of one-hit kills in PvP. Sandbox overall wants to reduce the number of one-hit kills in PvP, shifting combat more towards primary gunplay. With weapons, that means special tuning. With weapons, this means tuning special weapons, both the effectiveness of specific weapons and special weapon uptime overall, and one key primary outlier. This is interesting. I'm a little bit nervous for shotguns, let's say, but I know people still think shotguns need balancing. Address common feedback on weapons across all game modes. Each season, the weapon team looks at legendary and exotic weapons that are over and underperforming and make adjustments. Season 17 will be a larger pass than usual, with more of a focus on underused weapons and PvP balance. With our goals stated, let's get into the meat of it all. First up, Glaives. This is a lot of stuff, and holy shit, this is going to be a long one. Hence why you probably see this just like this. Glaive and Rave. We've noticed that several aspects of how Glaives interact with the weapon and armor perks don't match player expectations, and we want to take some time to clarify the intent. The changes included in Season 17 and the logic we will use for future changes. A Glaive melee is a basic melee attack. not a weapon attack. Doesn't consume ammo and deals kinetic damage, so it's more like an underpowered punch than a sword swing. Allowing buffs to the weapon damage to apply to glaive melees would be too powerful for something without an ammo limitation, particularly in PvP, where even a small damage buff would allow for incredibly fast 2-hit kills. Also, in general, we prefer to increase the glaive melee damage directly, as we are doing, in fact, instead of directly affecting making the weapon damage perks mandatory on glaives. Glaives already have a long lunge distance, and increasing this at all results in unreliable behavior over the network, so no melee lunge distance buffs apply to glaive melees. Our intent is glaive melee should activate the perks of base melee damage or kills, for example, ammo refill from glaive robber, weapon damage buff 5 stacks on swashbuckler, ammo refill from sealed Amakara grasps. Glaive melee should not activate perks that trigger off-powered melee damage or kills, or require expending subclass melee energy, such as combination of bow and assassin's crawl. Glaive melee should benefit from melee damage buffs as Winter's Gale and Wormgod Karis. Glaive melee should not benefit from weapon damage buffs such as Rampage, Kill Clip, Swashbuckler. Glaive projectiles should benefit from weapon damage buffs. That's a lot. Fuck! This is going to be a long one. With the expectation set, there are some inconsistencies in how these are implemented in-game, and some of which we already fixed, and some which we will look into at the future. Once these guidelines consistently implement in-game, we may look at specific cases where this doesn't match player expectation, and do some custom and updating descriptions where needed for clarification. But our primary goal is that players be able to predict how glaive interaction will work. Here's what we have changed during Season 16, largely bug fixes with some quality of life changes. Glaive projectile hits to reach maximum energy decreased from 6 to 4. Glaive melee can now be interrupted by a hunter dodge. Glaive robber perk now pulls from reserves on glaive instead of generating ammo. Glaive no longer gets stuck in clang recovery when using a melee attack on each other. Sealed Amakara grips no longer reloads the glaive on projectile hits, but does on melee hits as expected. Glaive melee can no longer stunlock high health combatants. Glaive melee kills are now tracked in match history for bounties and so forth. So let's talk about what is changing in Season 17. So here is what is changing. We're pushing glaives deeper into the roles of hard-hitting melee damage and near complete projection when shielded, as well as increasing projectile speed to make them more reliable at range. Note, the glaive shield grants 97.5% damage resistance in PvE, 75% in PvP. Increase melee damage versus PvE enemies, except for bosses and vehicles, by 25%. Reduce energy drain speed while shielded by 30%. Increase projectile speed dependent on range stat. At 0 stat, increase from 30 to 60 milliseconds. At 100 stat, increase from 80 to 100 milliseconds. Exotic glaives have all been buffed in addition to the global glaive changes, which make it easier to build energy, projectile speed making landing shots easier, and energy granted per projectile hit. Titan glaive edge of action, players can now gain void overshield while inside the bubble. Helm of Sand 14 now applies to this bubble as it does for Dawn of Ward. Warlock glaive edge of a tent, increased speed and acceleration of healing turret projectiles. Hunter glaive edge of concurrence, triple the damage of wave detonation, increase the number of enemies they could chain to from 4 to 8. Now, as a whole, I think these are healthy changes and clarification to what they are doing with glaives as a whole. This has been all over the place with what they want glaives to be. They have nerfed them, they have slightly buffed them. The Azags are very underpowered, and just seeing them kind of highlight some of the things that they want to do does give clarification that this archetype is expected to be something useful in either PvE and PvP. So I do think this is a healthy, discussion they have having, and hopefully we see some good stuff with the glaive. Honestly, guys, I haven't used the glaive that much this season. I've barely ranked it up. It's a cool gun, but it just doesn't fit my style. So seeing some of these changes, hopefully it makes me enjoy the archetype and use the archetype so much more than I do now. So let's talk about global changes. Flinch. Aim deflection on receiving damage, typically called flinch, is a common pain point, particularly on primary ammo weapons. We've rebuilt this ability weapon stat to grant flinch resistance in addition to other effects, while a maximum flinch resistance of 10% to 25% dependent on the weapon archetype. With this change, players can build for flinch resistance more easily on weapons that feel flinch more than others and less so on special weapons. We do not want it to be easier to use under fire. So this definitely clarifies some of my biggest concerns of making zero flinch snipers would be a problem. Zero flinch linear fusion rifles, again, would also be a problem. So focusing these flinch changes on primary weapons, I think, is a better thing. And it actually increases the stability, percentage of build crafting your weapons to maybe you want a little bit more stability for less flinch. This is something we can now build for and keep in mind for PvP god rolls. For internal playtests, you may not feel the difference when using just one source of flinch resistance, but when stacking 2 or more sources, the benefit is strong. Note, the higher zoom weapons are more affected by flinch, which we took into account when tuning these numbers. Here's the breakdown for flinch resistance with 100 stability. 25% auto rifle, submachine gun, and bow. 20% pulse rifle, scout rifle, sidearm, machine gun. 15% hand cannon and trace rifle. 10% fusion rifle, shotgun, sniper rifle, grenade launcher, both breach and drum. Linear fusion rifle, both special and heavy versions, and the rocket launcher. Note that the stability stat below 20 will technically have a small flinch resistance penalty, but only around 5 weapons have the stability stat in that range. That's actually quite interesting. If you guys actually don't know what we're talking about, probably here on screen I'm pulling up the stat. These numbers are probably pulled from LightGG. This is exactly what they're meaning. This number, when you see it displayed in game or on a website like LightGG, anything below 20 will have a negative flinch resistance. So this is actually pretty cool and something to keep in mind. Mentioning here because it's a related change. The resilience character stat now grants flinch resistance. Holy shit. Oh, I'm going to have fun. And so is my buddy fucking Dennis is going to have fun with this in PvP. Resistance at 0% or at stat 0. 10% at 100 stat. Ooh, this is going to be so fucking cool. Oh man, I'm excited now. Examples, note that sources of flinch resistance stack multiplicity. Wow, I can't fucking pronounce it that. 100 stat, stability stat, Cyril's pulse rifle with Cyril's energy activated, 10 resilience, no distractions, and 2 unflinching pulse rifle mods when buffed by Rally Barricade. Oh my god, that's a 90% flinch resistance. That's pretty crazy. A 70 stability stat hand cannon, 5 resilience, 1 flinching hand cannon mod is a 39% flinch resistance. This is going to change a lot of shit, guys. At least PvP flinch resistance, especially with flinch mods. We do know seasonal mods, they do introduce flinch resistance. So seeing those get introduced will definitely heavily dictate what is going to be the PvP sandbox meta for that season. So seasonal mods, would definitely wait how season 17 plays around. I'm going to definitely be using whatever I can double stack flinch mods on when it comes to those seasonal mods. Now, airborne gameplay. Before getting to build crafting, we have made a fundamental change to modifiers applied while airborne. Your primary weapons have less randomness and projectile accuracy in most cases. You'll have less aim assist instead and will need precise aiming to land your shots without building heavily into airborne. We've added a new weapon stat, airborne effectiveness, which is present on all weapons except those where being airborne doesn't have an effect, swords for example, which maps onto aspects of airborne gameplay using these guidelines. With little to no investment, 0 to 3 airborne stat, a character will have a smaller accuracy penalty than retail, but will have significantly lower aim assist. With minimal investment, 31 to 50 airborne stat, a character will have around the same in-air accuracy as Icarus equipped weapons do currently, but with notably lower aim assist. While substantial investment, 50 to 70 airborne stat, a character will now better accuracy than retail weapons with Icarus and fewer misses due to randomness, but with reduced aim assist. With specialized investment, 71 to 99 airborne stat, a character will have no airborne accuracy penalty with very slightly less aim assist. With full investment, 100 airborne stat, a character will have no airborne accuracy penalty and the same aim assist. This is a new weapon stat. This should be very interesting to see how this controls a lot of the guns in the game, and honestly is pretty exciting. Now, this stat has been hand-tuned on all exotic weapons, everything that's shipped from in season 16 and 17, and everything that's ever shipped as Trials of Osiris or nightfall loot. Older legendary weapons will have a default value set per weapon archetype to a value just below the minimum of allowed stat range. Now, this is pretty interesting. This is kind of nerfing older weapons that have not come out this season or next season. It's little disheartening to see, actually, but at the same time, I guess it's kind of dictating what loot you want, and I guess this is a fix, but I guess it's not a fix. Nope, this will be a hidden stat at Season 17 launch, similar to aim assist and recoil direction. You'll be able to check the stat on specific weapon through the API, and in Season 18, several previously hidden stats will be visible for weapon inspection screen. This is pretty cool. So an API, Late GG, Destiny Gunsmith, these are sites you can use to check these stats until Season 18. You will have to do this on an external website, and you cannot do this in game. I still find that a little bit, confusing, but game design could be complicated. So there's still ways you could use this. It's just you can't do it in game. So do keep that in mind. The stat influences several aspects of Airborne gameplay: aim assist cone, penalty angles, aim assist angle, reticle friction, adhesive angle, a high penalty to this angle at 0 stat, and low to 0 penalty at 0 stat. Accuracy cone penalty angle for primary weapons, a lower penalty than currently at 0 stat, 0 penalty at 60 to 100 stat. Airborne cone penalty for special weapons, a slightly lower penalty than currently, a 0 stat, 0 penalty at 100 stat. Aim assist assistance, 0 at 0 stat, 1 degree at 100 stat on primary weapons, slug shotguns, linear fusion rifles, machine guns, and 0.5 degrees on sniper rifles. This definitely makes sense because you do not want snipers being pinpoint accurate. This controls how forgiving headshots are while airborne. If this is 0, you must pinpoint aiming precisely at the head to get a headshot. Otherwise, you'll get a body shot even if your aim assist cone overlaps the head. This is interesting. So this sounds like it will definitely benefit a lot more mouse and keyboard players than controller players. So this may be needing some more fine-tuned balancing for controllers individually, but I'm a mouse and keyboard player, so for me, this is great. Controller players, be aware that this probably will not be great for you guys, and if you guys go up against PC, you might get outplayed in this regard, which is kind of disappointing to say. Pellet shotgun spread angle, plus 25% at 0 stat, 0 at 100 stat, more shotgun spread at low airborne effectiveness stat. So this is good. I know a lot of people are probably going to bitch about hunters. Hunters will probably mainly love using this 100 stat, airborne stat, and making sure that's as max as possible, because these motherfuckers love to jump. I hate you guys, but you guys love to jump, and jump shotgunning is still very effective, and I'm sure with build crafting like this, you'll be seeing a lot of it. While this means overall is that you will get fewer misses due to randomness from the accuracy cone while airborne, but reliance on aiming is much higher at lower stat. To make this easier, you'll need to build into airborne. With decent aim, you'll land more body shots instead of crits. Before and after examples of current accuracy penalty cone: hand cannon, before it was a 0.67 degrees airborne penalty stat. After 0 stat, it will be a 0.45 degrees penalty, and then after is 60 stat, minimum will be 0 degrees. I think this is pretty cool. Sniper rifles, this should definitely be the most interesting. Before 3 degrees, after 0 stat 2 degrees, after 60 stat 0.8 degrees, and after 100, 0 degrees. Okay, I don't know if I like that. That might be a little bit troublesome. I mean, it might be cool. Might a lot more cool clips. Maybe I could utilize this, but again, this is really, really going to be noticeable on mouse and keyboards. And I think mouse and keyboard players will get the most out of this. Controller players, it should be interesting to see how aim assist post this works. So there's that. The airborne effectiveness stat comes from 3 sources: weapon, subclass, and armor. Weapon. The weapons base airborne effectiveness stat with ranges varying from 0 to 10 and 0 to 30 depending on weapon archetype. Exotic weapons typically get bumped up higher stat than legendary weapons in this archetype, or at least in that archetype, unless they are already extremely strong. They've, again, fine-tuned these airborne effectiveness to specific weapons. This is a fucking long TWAB. The Icarus Grip. Adept Grip Icarus weapon mod is a plus 15. Certain weapon perks such as the redesigned Aerosol. Valid stat ranges for legendary weapons. Exotics sometimes exceed these, so the hand cannon will be from 0 to 25, sidearm from 0 to 30, auto rifle from 0 to 25. Bonuses, again, these are all percentage bonuses when it comes to the stat ranges and things like that. 0 to 25 for pulse rifle, scout rifle 0 to 20, submachine gun 0 to 30, bow is 0 to 20, sniper rifle is 0 to 5, shotgun 0 to 5, fusion rifle 0 to 10. Breach Grenade Launcher 0 to 5, Trace Rifle 0 to 15, Rocket Launcher 0 to 10, Machine Gun is a 0 to 20, Linear Fusion Rifle is 0 to 15, Drum Grenade Launcher 0 to 20, and the Glaive is 0 to 15. Let's reiterate this again. This is the total percent bonus or total benefit you can get. Doesn't mean it's going to be, let's say for sniper rifles is a 5%, you're not going to get, you know, the thing is not going to benefit you like it will an auto rifle. Auto rifles and things that won't one-shot you seem to be getting better stat rolls, and things that one-shot you don't get the better stat rolls. So do keep that in mind. Don't freak out if you're seeing those numbers. It seems to be more for at least jumping and shooting, which should be interesting to see reintroduced back in Destiny. Higher tiers of legendary weapons such as Shroud, Raid, Nightfall use the upper end of these ranges as other stats. So these are basic intrinsic stat rolls you'll get benefit-wise to your weapon archetype. Some examples of weapon outliers: Sweet Business gets a 27, Merciless gets a 15, Fighting Lion gets a 12, Sunshot gets a 27, Skyburner Oath, oh god, Sunshot gets a 27, that might be seeing a resurgence. Skyburner's Oath gets a 35, Rat King 30, Huckleberry 33, Ace of Spades 14, this is an example of a side that is already penalty strong enough and doesn't need to excel here. Chaperone 1, ditto. Thunderlord is a 26, Traveler's Chosen is a 35, and I guess the new exotic, which is redacted, is a 29. I'm going to go out and say on a limb that is probably going to be a scout rifle. Nothing to back that up, but makes sense in that regard. Some examples for hand-tuned legendary weapon stats: Frontier's Cry is a 19, Deverance is a 9, Submissive is a 27, Silicone Pneuma 4, Catena 57, the new 140 hand cannon 12, Messenger 20, Hung Jury SR4 22, Rongjing Hild the shotgun is a 3, Indigenous Hammer 23. And again, these are all weapons that are either season 16, season 17, or will be season 16. Right now, at least season 16, and you can earn these through trials or nightfalls. I think this is pretty interesting. Some of the first stuff, specifically Submissive, is a raid SMG, so that is also very intriguing. God, this is a very long video. I didn't think it would be this one. So subclass: the Heat Rises ability plus 70 while Heat Rise is active on consuming your grenade. The Temperamental ability plus 20 after getting a solar weapon kill. The Whisper of Heteron Stasis Fragment plus 20 after freezing a target. Exotic armor that revolves around being airborne or works on specific weapons, grants bonus and penalty in the -50 to 40 range or higher if conditional. God, I need some water. All right, I'm back from drinking a shit ton of water because this is, oh my god, this is very long. Exotic armor that revolves around the being airborne or works specifically on weapons, grants bonus or penalty, yada yada. We went over that. So Foe Tracer plus 20 to all, Mechanicer's Tricksliff plus 50 to sidearms, Oathburner's Keep plus 40 to bows, Sealed Akmahava Grasp plus 50 to off after 5 seconds after a melee hit, Lucky Pants plus 20 to hand cannons after readying a hand cannon, Stompies plus -50 to all. Let's fucking go. Nerf Stompies. No backup plans plus 30 to shotguns, Ackman War Rig plus 30 to auto rifles and machine guns, Hollow Fire Heart plus 20 to all, Line Rampart plus 50 to hipfire only, Peacekeepers plus 40 to submachine guns, Pelgrim Greaves plus 20 to all, Eye of Another World plus 15 to all, Atrocity's Verse plus 30 to all, Ophidian Grass plus 10 to all, Necro Grips plus 30 to weapons and sorrows, Wings of Sacred Dawn plus 30 to plus 50 to all, Boots of Assembler plus 30 to Luminara, and plus reacted plus 30 to fusion rifles, linear fusion rifles, things like that. This means that in general, if you want a good airborne effectiveness, say a 70 stat, you should pick a weapon with a high stat, put Icarus on it, and either grip an exotic armor piece that helps, or run a subclass aspect, fragment, or ability. And if you want to be the best possible airborne effectiveness, generally go all in on one weapon, exotic, and subclass. This is very cool, and it buffs a lot, and actually nerfs, obviously, Stompies. Stompies is a massive, I guess you could say, hunter exotic. A lot of people argue it needs nerfing. A lot of people say it's perfectly fine. I think it did need nerfing, and this is actually pretty good. The whole playstyle of a hunter is kind of jumping, being mobile, and a lot of those times you're jumping, you're shooting. So getting a -50 stat roll to your weapons is very nice. So some examples I give: Frontier's Cry with precision hand cannon bonus, Icarus Grip, Lucky Pants is a 79 Airborne Effectiveness, Icarus Grips, Submission with Icarus Grips, Stompies, Tempered Metal Active. You see here, 12 is an Airborne Effectiveness, so that's a negative. That is you're below 20 and is hurting you. Terrabot, Peacekeepers, Whisper of Hedron's active. You get a 83 Airborne Effectiveness. Skyburner's Oath, Heat Rises active is 100, and this is capped obviously at 100. This is a big weapon system change. We'll be monitoring how it rolls out and expect to make adjustments post-ship for fun. Here are some graphics to show the most used armor exotics across each class. We'll be watching data and feedback across these changes. Oh my god, look at Stompies. Look at Stompies. Motherfuckers. Oh, it doesn't need to be nerfed. It's crazy. But I can't really specifically read. Oh, okay. See how Stompies has like a massive thing? They have a list. We can bring this up a little bit more. But yeah, Stompies is the massive king. No exotic armor, does have a high thing. Knucklehead Radar is also good. But you see here, Stompies is massively high in pick rate. And let's see how things play out. I mean, this is obviously Stompies need a nerf. So seeing this chart, seeing this graph definitely works pretty well. We go over to Titans, we go over to my class, and this seems to be a little bit more evened out. Some of the best stuff here, we look, I have been using, where is my exotic? Oh, they don't have my exotic, or at least I can't find the exotic. Oh, CT's Ramparts over here. That's actually pretty healthy. I mean, we didn't say no buffs, but another gray one is AC/DC feedback. So this is, Titans do look like they got a good healthy selection. Nothing phenomenally well standing out. I mean, Lauren and Splendor Helm and Mask of the Quiet One are a little bit outliers too, but at the same time, nothing as crazy as Stompies was. Yeah, we look at the Warlocks. Let's back up here. See Warlock aesthetic usage. Oh, see Ophidian aspect. This is pretty much a big one, similar to Stompies. So does make sense some of these changes they've made, and I think this is a good way of balancing out some of the exotic usages in new, not in new, but generally across the sandbox, just making everything more utilizing. Giving more traits to exotics is definitely helpful to making less crutch exotics, as I would say. So playlist weapons. God, are we not even halfway through this shit? Fucking crazy. Playlist weapons. The latest playlist weapons drop from Gambit, Crucible, and Strike activity completions. Older weapons are available from vendor rank packages or can be focused. These weapons are intended to provide interesting drops even for players who spend a lot of time in activity. And while we want to keep the large perk pools to address that goal, we want to provide to reduce the duration unchased for players who want a specific weapon. Also, since the older playlist weapons are still available as vendor rank up rewards, we want them to feel more relevant in post-origin trait world. So this is interesting. Playlist weapons now have a chance to roll with extra traits in one or both columns, increasing the number of reset ranks with that render during a given season. Oh, this is actually pretty interesting. Note the reputation resets each season, so you'll need to play these activities each season to unlock the potential extra perks. All playlist weapons from Beyond Light and later will drop with an appropriate origin trait. Thank fucking God. Been needing that. But yeah, we'll continue about that later. Stat display update. Following the recent change to show numbers for all stats instead of just bars, we've opted to change the stat display on weapons to be more clearly reflective of their capabilities. All weapon stat bars now range from 0 to 100 instead of being limited to some range in the middle bar. Oh, thank God. UI definitely needed updating. This change eliminates rounding and other errors, particularly on adept weapons, masterworks, and enhanced traits, and better conveys the bounds a weapon stat can exist within. This is purely a display change. No weapon behavior has changed, but you should expect all existing weapon stat bars to look slightly different. One-hit kills and special ammo. There are several damage buffs internal to weapons that allow weapons to one-hit kill without much investment, and such as aggressive sniper kills with high pack reserves, Ariana's Vow, or Le Monarch. Yeah, fucking highlight this shit. You see this? Oh, highlight that. I better be seeing a fat old nerf. Especially when combined with external 20% damage buff. For example, Empowering Rift can give many sniper rifles one-hit body shot capabilities in Crucible. Most of these use the same buff under the hood, so we've adjusted them all at once. With these changes, it's going to be much rarer to see easy one-hit kills with weapons that wouldn't typically allow it. Reduced damage bonus for Empowering Rift, high energy fire, and inherited override from 20% to 50% against players. No effect in PvE. Great to see some separation of the sandbox. In addition, we want special ammo to be less plentiful, making it more difficult to chain special weapon kills. Disabled ammo scavenger armor mods in PvP. Good. Let's disable it. Don't really allow people to use it. No matter how much ammo a player was carrying on death, if you pick up a special brick, you can only get 1 ammo for shotgun, sniper rifles, or 1 kill's worth of ammo for weapons that require more than 1 shot. Forerunner, trace rifles. Retune several weapon archetypes and exotics, see below, with the general goal of reducing the effectiveness of uptime of special weapons. This is great because sometimes you see people just using shotguns and going crazy, and creates a very unbalanced experience. So archetypes. Special weapons, in particular shotguns and fusion rifles, are responsible for more one-hit kills than we like in PvP. We want them to be an option, but less ambiguous, less effective in multiple ranges with lower uptime. So we see here, we see the, I guess you could say the pick rate. Sniper rifles I get being a one-shot, but trace rifles are kind of obsolete. Linear shotguns are very high. Linear fusion rifles are, you know what I'm saying? They're around there. Grenade launchers still, you know, Glaive had a little peak and just kind of ugh. And then we see a fusion rifle. So I've been kind of a fusion rifle main recently, but it's clear that shotguns and fusion rifles are a little too strong in this category, so a change is very welcomed. Special weapons. All special weapons have had their in-air accuracy significantly reduced. While we are okay with encouraging players to build into using their primary weapons more effectively in air, we do not believe a prevalence of airborne one-hit kill options is good for PvP. Special weapons have slightly larger airborne accuracy penalty than primary weapons at 0 airborne effectiveness stat, reduced 0 at 10 stat. Special weapons have similar airborne aim assist cone penalty to other weapons, around 50% and 0 stat, and this penalty can be reduced by not entirely removed by investing in airborne effectiveness. Sniper rifles are fairly slow to ready, stow, and aim down sights, which has made snapshot feel mandatory for many players. Reduce stow, ready, and aim down sights times by 10%. Oof. Okay. All snipers are now snappier. There's a matching change to snapshot below. Sniper rifles have less access to ammo than shotguns and fusion rifles, where kills drop right in front of you. So we think about ammo scarcity and will prevent sniper rifles from spiking. Okay, this is interesting. So this is usage rates for shotguns specifically. Oh my god, my lightweight frame shotguns. This is kind of my favorite. I'm seeing a lot of usage there, which I'm glad to see, but also kind of nervous because now that means look at that. Look at these scumbag shot package. But precision frame, pinpoint slug frame, aggressive flame. Okay. I'm actually a little surprised that lightweight frame has the most usage. Slug and pellet shotguns are still overwhelmingly popular in PvP despite some recent changes, so we've touched them again with the goal of encouraging some diversity in special weapon choice. We're keeping an eye on this change since we've touched shotguns multiple times recently, and we'll adjust it if needed. With this change, we expect shotguns to have a shorter one-hit kill distance, but still be effective enough in short-range kill roll. This change reduces shotgun one kill distance by 0.5 meters. Jesus, I guess can't talk. I've been yabbing for an hour now, or half an hour, because the importance of spread angle is just as high as demand fall off, and this has not been touched. Reduce damage fall off, start and end by 1 meter. Reduce aim assist and magnetism fall off by start and end by 2 meters. Fusion rifle usage is trending pretty high, particularly in trials, and bringing shotguns down a little bit more would make them too good an option. So we've made a global change with these changes. 20 meters plus fusion rifles one hit should be very uncommon, though a combination of damage fall off and recoil changes should obviously allow that. So reduce damage fall off near distance, 2 meters at 0 range, 1.3 meters at 100 range. Reduce damage fall off far distance, so 1 meter at 0 range and 1.3 at 100 range. Reduce recoil scarcity variance between 0 to 100 stability, 0 stability unchanged at 0.75, and 100 stability increase from 0.50 to 0.550. And then we look at this chart, weapon perks recently. Well, we see here the different rifles, main ingredient, no composure, plug 1 adept, Snorri FR5, timeless vortex, daily reward, the variance, Cartesian coordinate. These are all main ingredients, a big one. Likely suspects, another big one we have seen here in terms of the choices for people to use, and these are definitely outliers for fusion rifles. So when we rebuilt fusion rifles in season 15, we wanted to differentiate the subfamilies dramatically from each other, which worked. It did. Definitely agree with that statement. Now that we've seen them in action for a couple seasons, we are pulling back from the extremes a little. With these changes, fusion rifle subfamilies still feel very different from each other, but high impacts are stronger, and rapid fire frame and precision should be a little bit less dominant. High impact reduced the unmodified high impact charge from 1.0 to 0.960 seconds. Increased damage burst by 10. Precision increased unmodified charge time from 0.740 to 0.78 seconds. Rapid fire increased unmodified charge time from 0.460 to 0.5. Decreased damage burst by 20. New charge time and damage burst for all fusion rifle subfamilies. High impact will have a 0.96 seconds and a 330 damage. Precision will be 0.78 seconds to 280 damage. Adaptive will be 0.660 seconds and 270 damage. And rapid fire will be 0.500 seconds and 245 damage. Besides, Divinity trace rifles aren't as popular in hard combat and hard content as we want to be. Particularly, we want damage type reworks of the oldest 3 trace rifles to have a chance to shine this season, and they are also more effective by disabling scavenger mods than other special weapons. With this change, they are better use of special ammo against non-red bar targets, increase trace rifle damage against non-red bar combatants by 20%, and increase ammo pick up per special brick from 18 to 30. Oh my god, we're almost near the end, I think. Fuck. Primary weapons, ammo, auto rifles, and pulse rifles aren't as competitive as we'll like in mid-range, and lightweight pulse rifles are too hard to use to hit their optimal time to kill. With these changes, we expect auto rifles and pulse rifles to be better to compete with hand cannons in mid to long range and outrange standard zoom submachine guns. This is actually pretty interesting. I made a comment recently that I didn't think auto rifles would be coming back to meta, but it seems like this is actually pretty much changing. Auto rifles increase damage fall off near distance by 0.75 meters. Pulse rifle increased damage fall off near distance on range stat. 0 range increase from 15 to 16 meters, and 100 range increase from 22.5 to 22 meters. This is going to be interesting. Note that the hipfire fall off distance is multiplied by the zoom value to get the aim down sight's fall off distance. Damage fall off remains 40 meters regardless of the range stat. Increased lightweight 450 RPM pulse rifle damage per bullet from 15 to 16 with a 1.65 times precision scaler. This will increase precision damage from 24.75 to 26.4. This change will not change the optimal time to kill in PvP, but will reduce the number of crits required. So this is interesting. As a whole, it seems that pulse rifles and auto rifles will be taking a look at when it comes to the sandbox and seeing if things definitely favor them more next season. It's not guaranteed, but these are actually a lot of healthy changes to auto rifles and specifically pulse rifles. So pulse rifle use rates might go up even more after this, which is kind of concerning, even though it's still some of the highest usage rates if we look at trial stuff. Zoom in, it's too important factor on submachine guns and submachine guns with low zoom doesn't feel competitive in PvP. We reduced the variance in zoom, brought these base zoom up from 13 to 14, and will extend the damage fall off distances. With this change, several standard zoom submachine guns will be more competitive, but this does not make the inaccessible submachine gun with the highest perk trait RNG multi-mock compete less with auto rifles, and it will no longer straight up outclass every other submachine gun in PvP. Wow. This is a nerf to multi-mock. Increased damage fall off by 1.5. Adjusted zoom values on the most valuable legendary submachine guns and one exotic Seguro's Wrath is 17 to 16. Multi-mock with max zoom is 17 to 15. Second highest zoom will bring this to 14 instead. Stochastic variable from 13 to 14. Achilleos, just nothing to change from the Witch Queen here, just 13 to 14. Seventh Seraph, 13 to 14. Ever Waking Moment, 13 to 14. And Huckleberry, 13 to 15. Huckleberry actually might make a little comeback. Even more, it's still pretty good. We like adaptive submachine guns and are starting to make them again, but in the current form, they kill too fast with body shots, so we've reduced the damage to increase their body shot time to kill with one bullet without impacting their optimal time to kill. I think that's pretty healthy change. Decrease body shot damage from 12 to 11.25. Increase precision multiplier from 1.35 to 1.44. Precision frame hand cannons have always been good, while Airborne effectively having built an Icarus Grip. And with the changes to Airborne functionality, we wanted to preserve the feel while translating their advantage to the new system. This is interesting. Intrinsic switch from 75% Airborne accuracy penalty reduction to 25% Airborne effectiveness stat. This means that if you had Frontier's Cry with Icarus Grip mod on it, you will be at 19 plus 25 plus 15 equals 59 before factoring in armor and subclass. So making, some of those things a little bit harder. Heavy weapons. Machine guns still aren't where we want them to be in PvP, so we're giving them an additional buff, but less so against bosses where their extremely long range and deep ammo reserves will make them strong in too many roles. I've loved machine guns recently, so this is quite interesting, and I'm probably going to enjoy this buff. Increased damage by 40% against PvE enemies and 20% versus bosses. Xenophage and Grand Overture receive this buff except for bonuses. Except for the bonuses versus boss. Sword stats have been inconsistent for a while now, so we've tied them up to these up, mostly cosmetic. Fix several inconsistent in stat display between different swords. This has no gameplay impact. Increase the charge range for Sola Scar from 12 to 50 to match Temptation's Hook. Rocket launcher subfamilies weren't differentiated enough with the previous change, so we've made differences more extreme. With this change, we expect there to be a more marked trade-off for intrinsic tracking on precisions and greater benefit to other subfamilies specified relative to baseline high impact rocket launchers. Precision, negative 10% damage, both impact and detonation. High impact, no change. This subfamily has the highest blast radius, aggressive and adaptive, plus 10% damage. Exotics. All exotics that ship before Forsaken release now have their kill trackers visible by default. Fighting line needed a bit more of a buff, so we've improved the reload speed, and Thin the Herd is active on a couple of releases back, and now we've increased the blast radius and damage. With this change, should be easier to get the damage you need to trigger this perk. Reverted the Season 15 Breach Grenade blast radius reduction just for Fighting line. Increased blast radius by 0.4 meters, increased damage by 5%. As of tomorrow, as a raid exotic, ought to be better against tough PvE enemies. With this change, it's a solid option in this role, particularly with the adaptive ordnance perk active. Increased damage versus bosses and champions by 30%. This should be healthy and make Deepstone Crypt kind of sought out again with Eyes of Tomorrow. Leviathan's Breath always felt like it should be absolutely wreck champions. Using its first shot to stun an unstoppable champion without doing much damage felt bad. Archer's tempo from its catalyst is significantly on paper, but in practice, the draw speed buff isn't noticeable as we'll like. Overall, we hope these changes make it feel better against all types of champions and tough enemies in hard content. The Archer's tempo perk from the catalyst has now increased effect just on this weapon. Standard draw time Scholars from Archer's tempo is 0.75, and it is now 0.5625 times on Leviathan's Breath. Added a small delay before detonation on champions, mini bosses, and bosses. This allows the impact on the stun an unstoppable champion and detonation to feel bonus damage against the stunned champion. This is good. Damage change to be more even split between impact and detonation, and increase the damage across the board by 50%. Overall damage versus champions is roughly doubled, even more compared to shooting an unstoppable champion. Unstoppable champions, thank God, they're getting changes. The Huckleberry has an overwhelming engagement range. The updated zoom based on a change baseline submachine gun increased zoom stat from 13 to 15. Our experiment with pushing the Xenophage into a harder to hit but slow firing didn't pan out, so we are increasing the rate of fire and adjusting the damage back to what it was. Oh, let's go, Xenophage back in class. We'll see how this rocks. Increase the rate of fire from 100 RPM to 120. Reduce the damage per bullet to match previous. Doesn't benefit from Season 17 machine gun damage buff versus bosses, so do keep that in mind. The Monarch is too oppressive when combined with external damage buff, so we felt like it could be stronger in PvE. No, you better fucking nerf it in PvP. With this combined change, with the damage buff change, we've introduced 60 resilience gain gate on killing a Guardian in PvP with a crit, while empowering with a similar. Reduce poison tick per damage versus players by 25%. Let's go! Change damage, poison damage archetype from burn to poison. This is largely housekeeping, not gameplay significant. Increase poison tick damage versus AI, 50%. So there's a difference. The wrench driver can be difficult to fight against in PvP, in part because it does very high body shot damage. With this change, getting left super weak by a body shot should be less common, though we will keep an eye on how this change lands and we may revisit it later. Reduce body shot damage by players, 20%. This will also prevent it from being a one-shot kill with body shot while empowering with combined changes. Oh my god. Body damage reverts to old behavior with the weapon's damage roll. Precision damage in any mode unchanged. Skyburner's Oath felt like it didn't have a niche except for airborne memes, so he made a bunch of changes aiming to improve its ease of use, give it some more utility, and really push it into that airborne role. Increase ADS projectile speed to 99999. Projectile is now a hit scan, which is phenomenal. Both ADS and fire are now 150 RPM. Hipfire projectile no longer tracks, but arcs similar to grenade launcher and has a larger detonation time to ADS. Hipfire detonation also applies to burn targets. The bonus range from the masterwork has been rolled up into the base stats. The weapon masterwork now grants bonus reload speed instead. Good. Skyburner's Oath might be fun to use. I'll check it out when this comes out. Has the highest airborne effectiveness stat in any weapon in the game, 35. That's pretty funny, given the memes. The last word plays very differently on mouse and keyboard than it does on controller, but the disparity doesn't need to be that large, so we're keeping an eye on the two. Reduce mouse and keyboard recoil penalty from 33% to 22%. Oof, okay. This should be interesting. Let's see if last word makes a comeback with mouse and keyboard players. Arbalest is more dominant than Attendant in hard PvE content, able to refill the anti-barrier roll, as well as shield breaking and boss damage. We've made fairly small adjustments here, but may look at it in the future. Reduce damage versus champions by 25%. Will still break barriers on one hit. Oof. My buddy Dennis will not like this change. Graviton Lance Catalyst didn't help with the weapon enough, and we wanted to give it a bit of a boost. This change gives us some interesting utility in PvE and PvP, particularly when the buff to exotic primary weapons to Witch Queen. Catalyst changed from granting hidden hand to grant vorpal weapon and turnabout. Ooh. Okay. All right. That should be interesting. Grand Overture's most recent adjustment switched the missiles to fire and burst of fives, which allow the more granularity into unloading the damage, but sometimes we just wanted them to fly all out once. Reduce the burst between missile modes, holding the trigger will now fire all missiles in continuous bursts. Tapping will fire the 5 bursts. Okay. Cold Heart, arc damage type updated. Cold Heart exotic trait, less more being is a trace rifle, no longer fits the world with legendary trace rifles. The ease of use sustained damage also pretty low. Sustained damage creates ion trace, and collecting ion trace grants energy to all abilities. Increased grace time between the damage ramps. Clears from 0.113 seconds to 1 second. That's interesting. Nothing too crazy. I'm not a big trace rifle guy. Prometheus Lens, slow damage type archetype weapon update. Generally, this needed some tweaks to be viable. Sustained damage applies to more useful burns to targets. Wave Splitter, void damage update, and the power cycling mechanic was interesting, but ultimately hard to capitalize on. Power level no longer cycles randomly. The default damage output isn't the same as the old middle tier. And then picking up an overpower now grants 10 seconds, and maximum power caps at 20 seconds, up from 5 to 10. Now suppresses targets while granted this mode by picking up an orb. Ooh, that should be definitely interesting. Oh my god, are we almost done? Perks. Note that where enhanced perks exist and adjustments are needed, it is adjusted the same way. Snapshot sights feel more mandatory in sniper rifles forever, and this change as a sniper rifle will snapshot will feel the same, but one without snapshot feels a lot snappier. Increase ADS animation speed secular from 0.5 to 7 points for special ammo. Primary weapons are unchanged. Opening shot from mandatory for shotguns, yada yada yada. They remove the damage fall off scalar. Increase the range stat bonus from 20 to 25. Other stats from this perk are unchanged, so that's good. Full choke has been a go-to magazine perk forever, justified or not. This change otherwise, so they've increased this spread angle from 0.95 to 9.9625, narrows the spread a little less. Smooth War has always felt like an awkward magazine perk, so we're still buffing it a little. Reduce the spread angle from 1.1 to 1.075 when this spready. Oh my god, this is a lot. Oh, hold up. All right, we did a little scroll down and things are okay. Desperado is a strong perk in its current form, but we'd like to be able to put it more weapons without breaking PvP. With this adjustment, it's still strong. Has more PvE utility and can be applied to pulse rifles subfamilies aside from high impact if desired. Increase fire recovery from scalar from 0.415 to 0.17. Doesn't fire as fast with the perk active. Reduced duration from 7 seconds to 6 seconds. Added a timer to the buff text. Remove PvE damage penalty. Aerosol was shelved a long time ago, but adding airborne effectiveness stat give us the opportunity to turn it into a perk that. Oh wait, Desperado. Thank God. Very, very helpful fix and change. Aerosol was shelled a long time ago, but adding the airborne effectiveness gave us the opportunity to turn it into a perk that actually does what it says on the description. With this change, airborne gunplay will be wounded, while wounded will be much more effective. Rebuild now grants up to plus 60 airborne effectiveness stat when wounded, same trigger conditions as Eye of the Storm. Mulligan was never quite as strong to warrant a pick previously, but buffing it would have been too risky on solo weapons. With this change, it is useful on rapid fire precision weapons where you don't expect to shoot every shot. Occupying a similar role to triple tap but inverted. Increased chance to return ammo on miss from 20% to 35% on primary ammo weapons. Unchanged on special and heavy weapons. Compulsive loaders shipped a little weak, and with this change you can really feel the reload speed bump. Increased reload stat bonus from plus 40 to plus 50, and added a 0.095 times reload animation scaler. Aldego was allowing for one-hit body shot kills with select shotguns. While this is possible with other perks such as Swashbuckler, the investment required to trigger the perk is once too low that the power bump. With this change, select shotgun with Aldego will be much less of a monster in PvP. Will still be able to get headshot kills at greater ranges while the perk is active. Reduce the damage bonus for shotguns from 30 to 20. I think this is a nice change. In Icarus Grip, the mods will now grant airborne effectiveness stat instead of previous airborne accuracy penalty scaler. Removed airborne accuracy scaler now grants plus 15 airborne effectiveness stat. And Icarus Grip, Adept Icarus Grip now grants plus 15 airborne effectiveness stat and plus 5 handling, which is pretty helpful. That was a lot. Oh, that was quite a bit. Oh my god, that was a lot. There's a lot of healthy changes. Right now, recording without any small little cuts I gotta make is 52 minutes. Holy shit, this is the longest video I've ever posted about a TWAB ever. So we got more weapon talk. Not going to be reading too much, but stuff that is leaving the pools at the beginning of Season 17. In Iron Banner, the included Finality Sniper Rifle and Finite Impact Hand Cannon are be leaving. The Comedian Shotgun, Power Drum Hand Cannon will be leaving Lightfalls, and Trial of Cyrus, Segura's Wrath, and the Messenger will be leaving. So this is the season to currently get these final versions of these guns before they get removed, and you can't get them no more. Stuff you should definitely get. Definitely get the Segura's Wrath submachine gun from Trials, as well as the Messenger, and the Power Drum Hand Cannon from the Nightfall. Those other weapons I didn't mention, not really too good. But the Iron Banner Finality Sniper, also good for PvP, so do keep that in mind. Now, leaving loopholes at the beginning of Season 18, the Peace Bond Sidearm, Archeon Thunder Machine Gun for Iron Banner, Nightfall's Plug 1 Fusion Rifles and the Hothead Rocket Launcher, and Trials of Osiris, Aerosol Sniper Rifle, and the Summoner Auto Rifle. They are obviously going to be adding more weapons and things like that. So with the near-term abilities tuning, with weapons talk out the way, let's shift back to some near-term conversations happening in Destiny 2. Now, in the near term, we do have some tuning abilities and exotic armors in Crucible as well. Next Tuesday, the 26th, half-fix will become available in the following changes. Action Bolt base cooldown will be increased from 92 seconds to 152 seconds. Titan's base cooldown when Bastion Void aspect is equipped is now up from 82 seconds, up from 53. So in the match, this matches the recharge rate of the Warlock Grip. Offensive Bulkwood now provides a 60% less bonus grenade energy in PvP game modes, which I think is great. Whisper of Chains now provides 15% bonus damage resilience against players when near a stasis crystal, down from 25%, unchanged from versus PvE targets. Renewal Grass, while equipped, Renewal Grass increases the base cooldown of the Dust Field Grenade from 62 to 152. Ongoing damage penalty applied to player victims in Renewal Grass Dust Field Grenade reduced from 50 to 20. Damage unchanged versus PvE targets. Stay tuned for the full patch notes article planned to release alongside the hotfix. Gambit Labs, not going to really talk about this, and Prime Loot stuff, not really talking about that. But in all, guys, this is an extremely long TWAB. This has to be the longest TWAB they've ever done. I have read and showcased so much stuff, and holy fucking shit, that was long. But we started this video approximately 55 minutes ago. As I'm saying this video is probably going to be cut down a little bit for some cutting purposes and for audio and things, but that was a lot. A lot of great changes. I think this is going to be interesting. There's so much to go over. I think the airborne effectiveness stat and the exotic tuning stuff when it comes to armor is the biggest takeaways of this. When it comes to individual weapons, newer stuff will definitely have more benefits and be more meta. Older stuff will kind of be faded out with changes and updates. So do keep that in mind if you're holding on to some old guns, that you may want to look into some newer guns because they may see more benefits in the upcoming changes. But with all that being said, if you guys stuck around this whole video, definitely drop this video a like. This is a very healthy change that Bungie has done. It's our longest TWAB ever, and not only was it for PvP mainly, but also for some stuff for PvE, which is exciting. But yeah, like this video if you guys enjoyed. If you guys are new here and want more content with me, don't worry. Do not drop 50-minute plus long videos this often. And if ever, Bungie ever does this shit again. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed, definitely, and you guys are new, definitely hit that subscribe button and the bell to be notified when I drop that content. And for more Destiny stuff, definitely subscribe. But that's all I got for this one. ShadowNinja here. And I'm out.
Tell me where you wanna go. We could fly to the